Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, our special guest is Janine Kimmel. J.L. Kimmel is a writer, artist, therapist, and teacher. She's the author and artist of the award-winning children's book, The Magic Gown. She creates enchanted worlds combined with realism from her love for nature. By the way, I mentioned the awards for The Magic Gown. 6 awards, Book of the Year in 2009 for ages 8 through 12. And the new book is what we'll be talking about on the show today, The Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. Janine, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Hello there.
I mentioned before award-winning book this time around, too, and you have to be excited. The Voice of Youth Advocates gave you a perfect 10 and really had some nice things to say about the book. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a beautiful review, and then they just gave us a perfect 10 for writing and for popularity, and we were so excited. So there are only 31 titles out of 1,100 last year were given that perfect 10. So the Yawning Rabbit River Chronicles loving that, and so are we.
Well, it's interesting because they said a couple of things that have to be like the utmost flattering to you. They said that the story will make lifelong readers of youth not previously committed to reading. As someone who tries to communicate with through the written word with young people, that has to be the utmost praise that you can get. Some kids that may not be that interested in sitting and reading, suddenly they're going to grab a copy of the Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle and really get into it.
Truly, that's what I have found. Even that was a really high compliment and something an author always would love to hear. And I've had children review the book. Like we just finished a tour in Ireland, and we got some reviews from those children, and you can tell that this is a book that will impact them for their life, and that's an amazing feeling, and it's really a great compliment.
And talk about appearances. You've got one coming up in New York City, the Bank Street Books. That's on April the 13th. That's conveniently located in New York City, 59th Street, Upper West Side. You've been there before. You've got a number of things planned, but how important is that as the writer to be able to go out and actually get that feedback? I would think that would be invaluable information.
What, the feedback to go to the Bank Street bookstore?
Yeah, from the young people who are buying the book or who have read the book or are coming out to actually meet you.
Yes, it's incredible. I mean, I spent 5 years with this book. The quality is always, my goal. And I just feel so fortunate that in these 5 years, this book came together in a magnificent way. And to even be re-invited back to the Bank Street bookstore, which is a beautiful children's bookstore that, is your classic idea of what a bookstore should be. They invited us back, and it's just a really high compliment. Andrew in there said that the book was all heart, and what better compliment is that? So we're excited to go and show the kids art and read to the children, and for children to be taken by this book the way they've been taken. It just makes like a dream come true for me when you work this hard to write a story and make it fit all together, because it's a complicated story, and I love that it's being recognized for its well written and its enchantment.
Well, you mentioned it basically was a process that took 5 years. Actually, you wrote some in New Jersey and in Ireland. You wrote some in Italy with David as well. So this was like a long process. How much did you grow during the course of this process?
Yeah, it was. I grew so much because this was a challenge, and yet I was part of something that felt like an enchanted process itself. The dedication that I had, I came out of this book a definite better writer, and really proud of this piece of work. Now I'm thinking about the book following this book, which would be the same, the Yawning Rabbit River Chronicles, say second book, and you think about, can I do it again? And I really, I'm excited about that challenge. This book was a huge challenge, and I feel I really met that challenge, and I feel really great about that.
Well, and you did, and the reviews indicate that. We're talking with J.L. Kimmel, Janine Kimmel, author of the book, The Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. The website is very simple, the Yawning Rapid River Chronicle.com, or you can go to with the initials TYRRC.com. That's a mouthful. You can't remember all of that. We have it at our website, so you can go get all the information and link on there as well. And working with you on the book was David Ceccarelli, and what a beautiful job he did in illustrating the book.
Yeah, there's such a beautiful combination of the black and white classics that you would see in the older European
Yes.
books, and then a modern touch that he gives to it. Yeah, they're beautiful and they're making a big impression on kids. And when we go to readings, he shows them how he draws. He's been drawing forever. He lives in Tuscany, and we met at the London Book Fair and in 2007, and we just seem to, when we work together, something seems to happen from who he is and from who I am, and it's really different. Because I wrote my first book alone, and this is such an extraordinary experience to do this with David. So yeah.
The book is The Yawning Rapid River Chronicle. It's available at bookstores all across the country. Mention the event coming up if you're in the New York City area on April the 13th. I'm reading through the book, really enjoying it, and flipped over to the back of the book and saw this is designed for young adults ages 10 to 14. And I'm thinking, okay, I can probably handle that and then some. What's fascinating is you read adults really are captivated by this book as well.
Yes, I came home from Ireland in December, and I was kind of tired, and the phone rang, and it was my mortgage broker, who's 70 years old, and he said, "Listen, I just have to tell you, I got your book, and I couldn't go to work. I could not put it down." And that I am getting that from people in their 60s and their 70s, parents whose children have the book, and that is amazing. And you have kind of a classic when that happens, when it reaches all age groups. So it's great. It's great to have that.
The book is written in three parts. Tell us briefly what the story is about, and then we'll talk about the difficulty in writing it, in storytelling. And you said you really like to do storytelling, but you have to watch. You can't be real preachy as you're doing it, and you're not in this book. But talk a little bit about the storyline.
Well, the beautiful thing is, and the surprising thing was, David and I started creating an idea for a story in 2007, which really was part three, but we had no idea there would be three parts. So we met in Ireland, and we were so taken by this beautiful valley where we were staying in the middle of nowhere that part one just fell into our hands. I wrote it in like 4 days. He was drawing away all these beautiful characters, fantasy characters of this valley. And it was hundreds of years ago this took place, this part. So we realized, and this is what happens for writers, it's great where out of nowhere something shows up. So that was part one, and it was hundreds of years ago. It was when animals talked. There was a troubled forest. And that all took place because of this enchanted valley. So interesting. I came home and polished that and worked on that, and then another part showed up after that, which was later in modern times, and that's part two. And then following that, where all the story gets created, where conflict is, then you move into part three, which was the original story that we started to write. So it goes from olden days of hundreds of years ago when animals talked to, and then into modern times. And I exaggerate a family in there, and then we go into the modern part three, which is, maybe you could imagine it to be now.
We're talking about the Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. J.L. Kimmel, Janine Kimmel, our guest on the program today. The website is the yawningrabbitriverchronicle.com, or just the initials, TYRRC.com. You can log on to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and get all that information as well. In the book, you're talking about nature. You're talking about natural resources, what we're doing to the earth, greed, prejudice, mystery, kindness, a whole lot of topics in there. How difficult is it to write so that it's entertaining for the people who are reading, yet, as I mentioned before, not being preachy, where you sound like you've got a message that you're trying to get across?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because of my love for nature and my deep feelings about nature, and also the magical imagination of how it does fall into place. That's storytelling. You know, you're telling a story, and all the things that you care about come through. And this really came through beautifully by the animals taking, I mean, speaking for us, speaking for me. And it just became the classic kind of story fairy tale where you're getting a message across, but you're not being preachy. And that is something that you know need to be careful about. But I was lucky that this story just took me, and I got to tell it, and it didn't come out preachy. I was really happy about that.
J.L. Kimmel, our guest on the program. It's an excellent read, no matter what age you are. I mentioned the ages that it's designed for. Pick up the book. Somebody, a friend of Janine's, 70 years old, so somebody even older than me picked up the book and enjoyed reading it. So grab a copy. And again, they'll be talking about this in New York on April the 13th. Let's talk about the whole idea of writing a youth-based book. And we hear so much about attention spans, not what it used to be. They're so into, video games and doing things other than sitting and reading. It has to make you feel good that your books, both of them, award-winning, have done as well as they've done, and the kids are responding. So I guess the message is, if you give them something that's entertaining, they will pick it up and actually read a book.
Yes, I find it that the quality of the story, the heart that you put into it. I'm not just telling a story to just create a story. I personally became taken by both my books. I invest my whole self into it, and that is like you literally give your time, 5 years for this one, say 4 for the other, and it's a big commitment. But when you give yourself to that, the story shows it, and I'm so pleased that when and you wait. I heard in Ireland there was a very good writer. She was 14, I think, going to review my book, and I was and the teacher said, and she's a tough critic, so don't be so excited. And when she loved it, you just say, oh, all that time that I put into this, and I stayed with it. It was worth it. It worked out, and I gave something of quality back. So it's such a gift. As you can tell, I'm as excited as the reader to be able to bring this book out. I'm just that excited.
You've got such an interesting background, going back to Project Writing Link, which was used to promote interracial and intercultural understanding. You do workshops. You talk about poetry. You talk about nature. Are those the links that can sort of bring people together? I'm talking about the writing aspect, going through imagination, going through nature, maybe things we overlook when we're trying to reach young people and to bring people of all ages together.
When I was, nature was always a real strength for me. My love for nature, it always gave me great company. But I also, as a teenager, began to write poetry. And I realized for myself throughout my whole teenage years that creativity I had an advantage, that it really helped me through emotional challenges that, come up for everybody in family or personal. And I decided early that I would really like to share how creativity helps the young child, but even the adolescent more, because I think that's a really challenging time. So creativity was always something I wanted to bring back to the young people. And the icing on the cake is that I've been able to write stories and books to show them, what can be done with creativity and how good it is for you, and how it helped me so much. So it's from experience that I know this.
I mentioned among all your credentials there are RN, so you deal on an ongoing basis with people and you interact with people. Got about a minute left in the program here. When schools face problems and they lump all of the stuff we just talked about, all those categories, and they put it under the category of art, and it's sort of like the first thing they start, we got to cut art. That's one area where we can cut back. I'm thinking, boy, that leads to creativity, imagination, all the things that we've talked about that spark some of these young people. Does that sadden you when people start talking about, we'll balance the budget by cutting back on the arts programs?
Yes, it saddens me, and I've seen it, and that's why I go and I try to be inexpensive and get myself in there because that like I said, it helped me so much, and it really does open the child up to who they are and possibilities, and I call it like a more beautiful landscape, an internal landscape. So. It does sadden me, and I'm a real advocate of let me in there, let me do some let me do some creative work with these kids, and it's what I love doing.
Well, it's interesting too, and I have 30 seconds left here, but with your love of nature, and that really shows. And when people start getting tense and the day is getting out of whack and things are going sideways, just take a walk outside for a little while, and suddenly you hear the birds, you see the flowers, and you put things back in, and you see the animals, and suddenly things get back into perspective, a little bit of serenity as you're out enjoying nature.
Yes, that is every day. I'm reminded of that, and also the oxygen. I
Oh,
say to
yes.
people, oxygen is the best medicine ever. So fresh air, getting outside, and just connecting. You don't even have to think about it. Just get out there, and it will help you.
And put a little sunshine on top of that, you've got the perfect day.
Yeah, and I don't mind the rain either, as you could tell from my book. I love I love the rain, and sunshine, rain, snow, all of it's good.
Deal with it. It's nature. Brings up, you'll see, recognize things on a rainy day you won't on a sunny day. So that has its advantages too. With us on the program today has been J.L. Kimmel, Janine, author of the book, The Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. I keep saying rapid. We're going to have to change it. That'll be the next book. We'll call The Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. The Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. The website is very simple, theyawningrabbitriverchronicle.com. You can go with the initials as well. We've got all of that up on our website, so you can link on, get it in all the information. April 13th, if you were in the New York area, the Bank Street Books, you will be there, 59th Street in the Upper West Side. You'll be reading original song. I understand your son will be doing a song. You'll be doing poetry. David is coming over. He will be there to show kids how to do their own illustrations. That's going to be an action-packed day.
It's going to be great. Yes, yes. Singing and David with art. He's amazing. And me reading and just, greeting and signing books.
That's April 13th, the Bank Street Books in New York City. Best of luck. Congratulations on the success of the book. We would love to have you back. The book
Thank
is
you,
The
Rick.
Yawning Rabbit River Chronicle. Thank you, Janine, for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.